Thank you very much for attending our Investment Readiness webinar today from the University of Essex. Welcome. It's the start of autumn. Spring and summer have now long gone, and we're now ready for autumn leaves falling, last of the sunshine. Get ready for the cold weather and get ready to prepare yourself for the winter. And with that in mind, we've got a very good speaker today, Simon Atack from Enterprise Europe Network East, who's going to be going through their innovation project canvas. Now, this is very important if you are an entrepreneur getting yourself investment ready, seeking investment of whatever kind that may be. It could be debt finance, bank loans, it could be investment from equity investors, VC funds, or whatever. But the basic principles still apply. And this tool is very, very useful. But before we go into that in great detail, just a few housekeeping rules. We will be collecting new participants as we go along. There's quite a few of you now, but there'll be a few more joining, no doubt. We know how long it takes to actually get onto the Zoom meeting, so please bear with me as I'm talking through this. And the meeting is being recorded, and we will be sharing those recordings with you on our YouTube channel later. We'll be sending out information on how you can access that in due course. For the benefit of those people who are just joining, we will be running the webinar very, very shortly. We're just collecting the last few people to come on board. And please make good use of the Q&A, which appears in a pop-up on your screen, either at the bottom, the side, or the top, depending on which device you're using and which software you're using. Because using the Q&A enables us to collect those questions that we can then put to Simon, or indeed myself or Josh, who are facilitating this webinar. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because by asking questions, you learn answers, and that could make a difference to the way you operate in the future. But I think we are now getting very close to the numbers that we were expecting. And I think it will be a good point for me to now start. So once again, for those who have just joined, welcome to the University of Essex, our Space to Grow program, which is all about investment readiness and how to prepare your business to be investor ready, and how investors can identify those businesses they should be investing in. Today we have Simon Atack, who's going to be launching the Innovation Project Canvas, a tool that we use ourselves when we are looking at investment opportunities. And so it's quite important that you actually understand what investors need to know about your business and about you. Now, before we start, I would like to run a poll just to test to see how much you are prepared today. So with my colleague, Josh, would you like to run the first poll, please? We've just got a minute or so to answer this. Have you already decided on your investment strategy? Now, this could apply equally to investors and entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, you should have a strategy going forward, and hopefully by the end of this presentation, it will put you in a good position to go forward. We're gradually coming through. Don't be shy. It is anonymous to everybody what you are actually voting. And that's over half of you have voted, with a few more like to put in their suggestions they have. Well, I think that's enough time. Enough time. Would you like to share the results of that poll? And as you can see, 40% of you have got a strategy and 60% of you haven't got a strategy. So this presentation is equally important to both of you, so please pay attention. Okay, if you'd like to stop sharing those results now, please. And let's move forward now. I'd like to introduce Simon Atack. Now, Simon has a long career in getting businesses investment ready. He has got an excellent track record in raising funding from Innovate UK in the form of grants and loans, and in preparing businesses for that major step forward. And don't get me wrong, if Simon thinks you're a good bet, then I'm prepared to back that kind of investment. So I have a lot of faith in what Simon does and the work that Simon actually does for us. So without further ado, I would very much like to introduce you to Simon Atack. Simon, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you for the kind introduction. And welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today to have a look at the Innovation Project Canvas. Now, the Innovation Project Canvas is an extremely useful tool and framework for preparing yourself for any type of investment funding that you're looking to obtain. It was primarily developed around applying for grant funding from Innovate UK to help gain investment in innovation projects, but it's equally applicable if you're going for bank funding or if you're looking at angel investor funding, venture capitalist funding as well. What the framework does is it helps you consider all of the different elements of your proposition that you're looking to put forward and investigate the robustness of the information that you have there so that you can go in fully prepared when you're going into a pitch or you're going into a grant funding application, and you can answer the sort of questions that investors are going to ask you, or the sort of questions that auditors, when they're looking at grant applications come in, are going to be thinking and using as a benchmark for reviewing your application that has come into them. So what we'll do is we'll work through the Innovation Project Canvas and look at each of the individual areas that are within the framework and some of the questions that you might consider asking yourself in that particular area of your project, and how well you've got that covered in terms of breadth and depth. So we'll start off first of all looking at the unique features within the Innovation Project Canvas. Trying to get the... So in terms of the Innovation Project Canvas and looking at your innovation project, a real critical element is what makes what you're doing, or the product that you're looking to produce, or the service that you're looking to introduce, innovative. And how innovative is that? And can you really describe where the innovation is in relation to the market, and in relation to the competition, and in relation to what's gone before? Because there are a lot of projects that are incremental innovation, and there are other projects which are very, very highly disruptive innovation. And the greater the level of innovation that you have within a project, certainly from Innovate UK's point of view, and often with investors as well, the greater appetite for investment is there, because there is something more unique about what you're doing, and therefore something more protectable and something more investable that has higher value. So you really need to crystallize what the difference is in a very sort of deep way in relation to the product or service offering. A lot of businesses, you go, yes, we're innovative, we've got a great idea, but actually if you really drill down into the market and you have a look at what's out there, and you look at the competition, and you look at what your particular product is and break it down into what it does, sometimes there's not really that much innovation there that's being claimed. So in terms of this area, it's very important to really scope and understand your innovation. Then in terms of the next thing that you look at with the Innovation Project Canvas is looking at the technical feasibility of the idea. So you've got a great idea, you've got a great innovation that you think everybody in the world is going to love, and you want to take to market, and you fully believe it. You need to look at what is the feasibility in terms of taking this innovation out to market, and understanding all of the processes that are involved in it, from developing the concept initially, from going through the design stage if it's a product, to going to the prototyping stage and what's involved in that and the related costs, and can it be done in the materials that you're looking to do it in. And then in terms of looking forward and taking it further, you might have something that's 3D printable, but just because it's 3D printable on those particular materials doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be something that is going to be manufacturable and work for massive scale up. So therefore you need to look at the feasibility through the whole chain, from the concept all the way through to the development and the scaling and commercialization of the product. So you need to look at what is driving the development of your product. So what are the functional requirements and the design features that the marketplace is demanding? So it's starting to delve into getting a greater breadth and depth of understanding for your marketplace and what their needs are and what the jobs they're trying to do are being done and how you can best address these. You need to consider the technical capability that you've got within your organization, and also affiliated partners that you might be able to work with to complete the development of the idea into a commercially viable product or service or process. Have you got these things in place? Do you know how the process is going to work, what it looks like, and is it practicable? Is it possible? Is it cost effective to be able to do that? Are there industry standards or technical parameters with which you need to work? So have you got restrictions in terms of your development by nature of your industry sector, or with the materials that you're working with, that prevent you from doing certain things, or it channels you into a different way of doing things? Have you researched other methods or solutions to the problem, sort of technical solutions and non-technical solutions? And does the idea comply with the requirements set by law and regulations, not only for the country that you're in, but if you're looking to export into international markets? Is the product that you're developing going to be applicable and fit into the markets that you're hoping to sell into? So you've got a lot of considerations that you've got to take into account initially. Once you've got your conceptual idea and gone, yep, it's an innovative idea, it's nothing quite like it out there on the marketplace, but you've really got to validate how feasible it is next. After that, an important area to look at, feeding on from the feasibility, is the production process and establishing whether it's possible to scale up production to the levels needed to scale. So as I was previously saying, you could have a product that you can develop, you can 3D print it, you can get it out there in a small scale production, but by nature of the design, the materials used, it may not be suitable for large scale manufacturing, injection molding, and those sort of things. So again, you've got to be able to really map out the full production process, map out the targets that you've got in terms of the development and also the return on investment, the sales, and be able to map down how it all works and that it's viable every step along the way. This is extremely important both for the validation of the business model, but also for investors, because if they can see that you've clearly thought out how it works and how you're going to get it there, it makes it a much more easier decision to invest in you as a grant funding organization or as an investor, because they can see that you've got a clear process in place and it's feasible and it's going to work. So after you've considered looking at areas such as the production process, another important thing to consider in relation to having an innovative idea is what the intellectual property is that is around the idea that you've created. So what IP have you got in the line of trademarks or patents or copyright or design rights? Have you considered those? Do you understand what IP you have within your innovation? And also, do you understand what the innovation management process is going to be in terms of protecting those intellectual property rights? How are you going to do it? What's involved with that? And who's going to help you with it? Because no doubt, if it's something that you're looking to patent, you will be needing to use the services of an IP lawyer, or if you're looking to trademark a product, you'll be looking to use a trademark attorney. And have you got the right contacts? And do you understand the full scale of the costs that are behind it to give you protection of freedom to operate in the particular territories that you're looking to develop and sell your product in? And also in relation to this, have you, if you're looking to patent the product, have you actually kept it confidential enough within the time period of coming up with the conceptualization of the idea to actually be able to patent it? Because there's quite a lot of ideas that businesses come up with, but if they showcase it to the world or they talk about it to other people, you've lost the opportunity potentially to patent the innovation that you have there. So you've got to be very careful about the security of the novelty of your idea. So that's extremely important. And then in terms of your intellectual property management strategy moving forward, is the product that you're creating or the service, the idea that you're creating, which has the IP in it, is it something that you're looking to develop yourself, or is it something that you're looking to license on to another company? Say, for example, you're just an inventor, you've come up with an idea, you've managed to get it 3D printed and prototyped, you've got all of the plans, you've protected the IP, but you're then looking for a manufacturer to take it on, to take it out to market and commercialize it. So do you understand that the process that's relative to this? Have you got the right contractual information and support in place that you would need to have with that? And do you understand the channels to market that you're hoping to get this product out to market via these distributors and manufacturers? And as part of this, do you have non-disclosure agreements in place, confidentiality agreements signed in the ideas phase? So it's all areas that you need to consider, which are extremely important. And in some cases, the value of IP within a company can be up to 80% of the value of the company with strong IP. So it's an extremely important area to really make sure you understand and protect and put into place the right mechanisms for protection. Okay, and then in terms of the next stage, if we're looking at the project plan, so you've gone through, you've got the great concept, you've decided on your research that it's feasible, you've looked at the production processes and understand how that's going to work. You've looked at your intellectual property protection. You understand what IP is there, and you've got the right processes in place to protect it. Then you're looking at your project plan as to how are you going to take everything forward, and what milestones have you got? What activities are involved? Have you broken it down into work packages? Now, this is mostly important for grant funding, because grant funding investment can sometimes come in tranches, particularly the bigger Innovate UK funded grants. And so you have a particular milestone and activity section within the project that you're working on. And at each of those ends of those activity sections with the milestones, you can then make a claim for a drawdown for some of the funding. So if you've got a particular funding bid that is reliant on that sort of breakdown, it's making sure that you have everything in place to plan it in and also evidence it for your claims. In terms of the innovation as well, what's the timescale that you're looking to take it to market? And is the project plan realistic in terms of your expectations? And have you got everything aligned properly to take into account any challenge areas that you might have in the project plan that may affect the ability to go to market? And what contingencies have you got in place to handle those? And often with the project plan, it's very useful to use existing tools such as Gantt charts, of which you can get Gantt charts on Excel for free. You've got lots of different providers like Team Gantt, who are providing online free single project sort of systems to do a trial, and you can easily put together a Gantt chart to support your project. So there's a lot of help that's available out there in terms of structuring project plans. So it's just making sure that you utilize the tools that are out there that can really help you. So in terms of the inside of the business and looking at the areas, The next consideration that you would need to look at is risks. So what are the risks associated with different aspects of the project that you're looking to do? And there are some very key risk areas that in terms of all applications or innovation funding bids, investment, that you really do need to consider. Key risk areas: intellectual property competition. So again, your freedom to operate and the value of the IP that you've got in the company and in your innovation that you've developed is absolutely critical if you understand what the competition are doing and where the competition could come from, because that could completely destroy your freedom to operate and if not massively reduce the value of your IP, could annul the value of your IP. So it's extremely important to do the research that's behind this and understand what competition exists in terms of your intellectual property and how you can best manage the situation and mitigate it, which may be in the way you go back to redesigning the IP that you've got and putting in the right sort of protective measures to counter the challenges that you can see in the marketplace. You've then got customer adoption and diffusion. Again, this is another risk area. If your go-to-market strategy is based on lots of assumptions, I've got a great product here, I love it myself, the whole market will love it and we'll sell millions. If you've made assumptions without actually validating that by really looking in depth and in breadth at the marketplace and really justifying that the market is there for you, what size it is and what value it is, you could have a real challenge with customer adoption and diffusion into the marketplace. So again, it's a very important risk area to consider. And likewise for investors, they want to see what current market traction you've got and what the potential market traction is out there. And likewise, grant funding investors, they're going to want to see how you're going to grow the business, increase your turnover, increase number of staff within the organization. And so proving that you've got that customer base there and that your innovation is right for that marketplace and it will be adopted in the right sort of quantities is very important. Other challenges that you may have that it's important to consider as risks is whether there are any technical challenges or technological challenges that you've got in terms of developing the innovation and taking it to market. It could be challenges that exist within the business, or it could be wider macro environmental challenges where there are new technologies on the horizon that are going to be realized within the next 2 or 3 years, which may have an impact on the technology that you've developed now and are looking to introduce. So again, it's about understanding where those challenges sit and how you could best address and mitigate them. There's other areas around costs and revenue streams. Have you got the right analysis in terms of the costings that you've got? And have you prepared yourself for any unexpected rises in production costs or development costs and costs of goods sold? Likewise with revenue streams, have you made assumptions on that, or have you got a really clearly defined error for margin in terms of the revenue streams that you're projecting, and they're conservative and sensible in terms of what you're projecting moving forward, both for the investors and also for grant funders. And in terms of human resources, have you got the right skills and experience, both within your business and externally, to be able to support the development of your innovation and its commercialization? So again, 5 very, very important areas to consider when you're putting together a grant funding bid or you're looking at gaining investment for your innovation proposition. Okay, and then in terms of looking at the innovation project canvas as a framework, on the one side, we've looked just there at different areas within the business that you need to really have a handle on in terms of investment readiness. Now we look more to the external of the business and looking at things such as market potential and what are the drivers for the innovation and how are you understanding the marketplace and best addressing that. So in terms of market potential, often with investment propositions or with applications for grant funding, assumptions are made in terms of product sales on the total available market that's out there. Say we have a mobile phone market that's worth 500 million, that's my target base. We're going to be a percentage of 500 million. But in terms of the marketplace, that's not really the case. So you really need to start understanding, from the point of view of investors and grant funders, what the total available market is in terms of your target market, what the serviceable addressable market is within that, which is the amount of market you could potentially serve in the long term, and then what is the serviceable obtainable market. So that's the market that you could actually achieve realistically, say within the next 12 months. And it's that figure, the serviceable obtainable market, that you want to be basing your plans on. And the reason you want to be doing that is because grant funders and investors will see that you've got a real understanding of your marketplace, and you've got a realistic approach to what that value of the marketplace is that you as a business can personally service within the short term and then medium term. You need to look with market potential at what are the trends or the challenges that are driving innovation in the marketplace, and how your development that you're looking at sits in with the way the wider macroeconomic environment is all moving. So you need to look at what are the social changes that are going on out there that are driving developments. What are the technological changes that can act as opportunities or potentially risks for what you're doing? What are the economic changes that could have an impact on your model? The environmental changes, political, legal, and more so than ever before today, ethical changes in terms of the buyers and the marketplaces. So it's very important to, when you're carrying out your analysis of the market potential, is to look at a steeple framework and really consider where the risks and opportunities exist from the wider changes that are going on in the environment. And then in terms of when you're presenting your overview of the market potential, key things that investors and grant funders are going to want to know: what's the estimated value of your accessible market? What's the growth potential of the particular market that you're targeting? And what's the estimated market share you might reasonably expect to win over the next 3 to 5 years? And what are the characteristics of those markets that you're going to approach? And what are the changes that are going to happen in those marketplaces over time? And how are you going to adapt to them? And how can you create a defensible position within the target market? So again, feeding back to your risk management, feeding back to your intellectual property protection, how are you showing that you've got the freedom to operate and you've got a strong defensible position for what you're planning? Okay, so having gone through those, I do believe we've got our first question set. So we'll see how this goes, and whether you can remember a couple of the points I was talking about in a previous slide.
Thanks, Simon. Okay, so here we go. And so the question is, what key potential risk areas are important to cover when presenting a funding bid? You see the options on screen there. So we'll give you a minute or two to answer this. Okay, so getting some good responses in so far. Just a few more.
Don't be shy.
Okay, give it a few more seconds just so it filled out the minute.
Last chance to phone a friend.
Okay, so we'll leave it there and I'll share those results with you. So a bit of a mix there, but the looks like most people are saying all of the above, Simon, there.
Well done, the right answer. Brilliant. Good. But yes, intellectual property competition, definitely a really key area, as highlighted there in the responses as well. So That's great. Okay, so so in terms of the next going on to.
Just to remind viewers that if you do have any questions, please don't be shy to put them in the Q&A section, and we will address those as we go along.
Right, okay, so moving on then, in terms of, we've just looked at market potential, and we're now considering customer segments. So customer segments is looking at who are the specific customers that you've got and who will be using your innovation. So it's really trying to clearly define what segments that your innovation solution is trying to address. What's the nature of those different target customer segments? And have you defined customers or user profiles by characteristics, by buying behavior? Have you, importantly, if you can do, visited potential customers or users to align your innovation to the business problems or challenges? Have you looked at the customer journey that customers go through, and how are you solving the different problems that they face, so that what you're doing with your innovation is truly matched to the marketplace and matched to the particular customer segment that you're addressing. So again, this is a very important area, taking it from the overall big market potential that you've got to drill further down into who your specific customer segments are. And this is important because quite often with businesses, you develop a product and you think, right, well, it applies to everybody. Now, from the point of view of an investor or the point of view of a grant funder, they're wanting to see who are the specific customers that you're going after, the specific customer segments. And although your product may be applicable to anyone, you can't spend all of your marketing budget across all the different areas that you can. So you need to be very specific about who you're targeting, and it's very important for businesses to do that to be successful. So going on from that, we've then got the value proposition. So this is again taking it a further level down. So we've got the big market potential, we've got our customer segments that we've identified, and now we're looking at where does the value sit between the customer and the jobs that they're trying to do and your innovation that you've got, and how closely are those aligned? Because the closer that you can align your innovation to your target customer's job to be done, the greater potential success that you will have and the greater ability you will have to lock out the competition who are trying to produce something more generalistic as a solution. So of all of the areas of understanding customers, understanding customer job to be done and understanding value proposition is one of the key most important areas. So the sort of questions that you would ask are, which customer or user problem is your innovation trying to help solve? What will it actually take for your customers or users to experience the benefits of your innovation? What's the customer journey? What's the process they're going to go through? And really work through it from the customer side. If you're developing something, you'd want to try it. How does it fit? How does it work? How does it slot into what they're trying to do? What are they really looking for? What are the characteristics of the innovation that they're seeking, and how importantly do they rank those? Is it accessibility that's important? Is it convenience? Is it cost reduction? Is it customization or ease of use or efficiency? And in terms of your delivery of that innovation to the customer, how does your business model differ to those used by the competitors, and how does it benefit the customers more? And this is extremely important, again, because when you've got funding applications that are going in, or you're looking for investment funding, showing your differentiation and your better customer alignment is extremely important. And Strategizer, who came up with the business model canvas tool, they've also got a supporting framework tool called the value proposition canvas. And again, that, which we've got here, really helps you to map down what the customer jobs are and what they're trying to achieve, what the customer sees as particular pains or challenge areas in terms of trying to get their jobs done, and what they see as value-added benefits that they would like to see in terms of trying to get the job done. And then from your side, with the product development and development of your services, you can then look at how you align your development with what the customer's trying to do and what the pains they have and the gains that they're looking to achieve by creating pain relievers and gain creators within your products and services that match what they're looking for. So again, this is an extremely useful tool for putting down your innovation and how it best matches the customer. And the great thing is it applies both to new product development, so where you understand the customer jobs better and what their challenges are, you can adapt your products and services and develop new services to better match those. But also from a marketing point of view, it's an extremely useful tool because you've got a framework then for saying, this is my product and service that provides these features in terms of our gain creators and pain relievers that deliver these benefits that you would like to see, Mr. Customer. And we understand that these are really important benefits that you're looking for in terms of trying to get your customer jobs done. So in terms of framework tools, again, this is an extremely important and valuable tool to make use of in terms of pulling together your strategy when you're looking to engage with customers. Okay. And then in terms of after you've defined your value proposition and you've understood the picture of, we understand the big market and where we sit within that, we understand the customer segments that we're looking to address within that, we understand the value proposition of our innovation and our customers and the jobs to be done and how we're going to address those with the innovation that we've got and the value proposition that we've got. Then you need to be covering how you're looking to go to market. So what channels have you got in terms of distributing the product and informing others of your innovation? And how does that work? What is the basis behind it? And what are the related costs? What are the related risks? How likely is it to be successful and to what level? And how are you going to best exploit the potential of your innovation through these channels? So again, covering this off is extremely important because this is another key element that you are making investors and funders feel confident about your commercialization strategies. So they know, yep, you've got a great product. It's ideally matched to your customer base. You understand who they are, but how are you actually going to get to them and commercialize and make this successful? So another important thing to consider. And then another area that you need to look at in depth and breadth is the competition. So how well do you understand your competition? Who are the top 5 competitors that you're competing against in your industry or your proposed industry? Who is operating in the market space? Which of the players could be considered as direct competition? Which ones could be considered as indirect competition or replacement competitors? And that's an important area to consider. Is what you're selling, if I'm selling a milkshake, could that be replaced by a Coke? It's not another milkshake, but it is an indirect competitor. So you've got to look at what considerations there you need to look at to make sure that you've got a robust approach to the competition. What competing products or solutions are being developed or already on the market? And what is the commercial state of the art available today in this sector? So again, with technology products that are fast moving, you want to consider what's the state of the art available today that you're competing with and how quickly is that going to move forward? And are you going to be able to keep up with it? And then finally, in this area, looking at customer relations in relation to the customer journey that you're going through. How are you planning to disseminate, from a project point of view, the results of your project? How are you going to maximize impact using channels such as press releases, conferences, scientific publications, workshops, newsletters? How are you going to shout about the project? So from the point of view of a funder or an investor, if you get the funding that you're looking for, they're going to want to see how is everything going to be publicized about this amazing innovation that you're looking to take to market. And so it's important for them to know what you're going to put behind that as well, in terms of getting the message out there. And also, how do the activities help pave the way for market commercialization? And are there any considerations or conditions in terms of dissemination of results by partners, in terms of timescale? There may be, because of the type of innovation you've got, restrictions on what sort of time period you've got before you can actually shout about what you're doing. So you need to consider those. And then from a commercial point of view, again, it's looking at where you've got the channels to market. How are you looking to build and manage and maintain customer relationships with your clients as well? So again, another important area to look at the breadth and depth of information that you have there. Okay, so we've got another question here from the poll point of view. So we'll see how you remember that one.
Simon. Okay, so next up, here we go. In terms of market potential, what is the SOM? You see you got your options there on screen again, and so I'll give you a minute or so just to get your answers in. Okay, so just a few more of you to answer then. Okay, so we'll end it there. And so a little bit of a mix there, but the majority of people saying serviceable, obtainable market. So majority of people got it right there. And Simon, while we're here, we do have a couple of questions that have come in. So first of all, how would you prove that your business model is viable without the funding, as surveys aren't sufficient?
Well, I mean, in terms of proving your business is viable without funding, you would have to look at trialing things into the marketplace. You know, small scale sales. See if you can get that actual true customer evidence that somebody is genuinely wanting to buy it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a particularly expensive investment. And as you're adapting at that early stage, and you've got an emerging business strategy that's coming into place, you don't want to be going perhaps full scale out into the market. But if you can test even on a small percentage what the buyer response is, then that can be extremely helpful. And also for investment, particularly for angel investors and VCs, having some sort of evidence of traction with customers is extremely valuable in terms of getting investment. So looking at a cost-effective pilot market test is probably the best way forward.
Okay, and one more for now. How do you convince the market that they have a compliance issue which your solution addresses?
Ooh, interesting one. So convincing the market that they've got a compliance issue. Well, I mean, it's I think with the marketplace, it's really understanding with the customers what's important to them and what's of value to them. And if you're sort of struggling to convince them of an issue with compliance, that that's something that they need to buy your service to be compliant, but that's not gaining the sales or the traction. It's what are the other things that the customer is seeing in terms of the jobs that they're trying to get done? What are the other real challenges in terms of the pains and the gains that they have that your product or service is addressing? Because then they will see value in it, because they don't, quite often with businesses, compliance comes up perhaps lower on the list than other priorities like increasing revenue and dealing with other things that they have to in the business. So if you can find something else within your product or service, although it helps compliance, that better matches what they see as a solution to the gains and the pains that they've got, then there'll be much more interest in terms of the offering that you're looking to put forward.
Great, thanks, Simon. And remember, everyone, any more questions, just put them in the Q&A box and we'll get round to them in the next break. Thanks, Simon.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so in terms of other things that are crucially important in terms of the investment, so we've looked internally at the business, the unique features, the technical feasibility, the production process, the IPR, the project plan, the risks that are involved in there. We've looked at your market and how you're getting to market, so what the potential is, who your customer segments are, what the value proposition is for those particular customer segments, the channels to market, the competition that you've got, how the customer relationships are being managed, and how you're getting the information about your great innovation out there. Then another important area is cost structure and understanding in relation to the project how much it costs to actually take this innovation forward, and whether the costings that you've got are detailed enough and are realistic enough, and have risk management put into place around them as well. So questions that you need to consider that funders are looking at are, do you have an estimated total cost of the project? What amount of internal or external funding you need, and what's the balance with the match funding? What financial investment has been made so far into the project, whether you've personally invested into it, or it's family and friends, or you've got other smaller investors? What has been put in so far? What value level has that got, and what has that allowed you to achieve? Do you have a breakdown of costs associated with the project so they can clearly be analysed by the funder? Have you estimated the relationship of the cost by unit price to that of the selling price for your dominant customer segment? So do you understand how the cost price works against the sales price for your largest customer base? If you're seeking external investment, how likely are you to be able to acquire the match funding? So if it's grant funding where there is a commitment that you have to provide 50%, and it's an investment value of 500,000 project, and the grant funder is providing 250,000, can you realistically get the other 250,000? Where are you going to get it from? How much follow-on financing may be needed to bring your innovation to market? So you might be applying for funding that helps create the prototype and creates the initial development. But in terms of success, funders and investors want to see the results of the commercialization. So have you put into place enough requests for funding to be able to take the innovation forward and get follow-on financing to properly commercialize it, scale and grow? And how are you likely to finance the remainder of the project itself? So again, it's looking at a real analysis of, this is what we want to do, and we really understand the costs that are associated with it, and this is where the funding has come from so far. This is what we're looking for, and with the investment that we're looking at, we have put into place enough financial support to be able to effectively take the innovation to market and make a success of it. And then on the flip side, as well as considering in detail the cost structures that you have, again, revenue streams are extremely important to understand where the commercial opportunity is. And funders will want to look in detail at how you're planning to make money from your innovation. How you've set the selling price for the product or service or process, and how this compares with your main competitors. So are you going down the route of pricing it on the basis of cost plus? Are you pricing it based on what's going on in the marketplace with what consumer demand is requiring? Are you looking at competitive pricing, premium pricing, penetration pricing, skimming models, economy pricing, or even is the innovation looking at a freemium pricing model to get this particular initial element out, but then as part of a wider project, you're developing paid for services that then prove a highly successful commercial model? Have you calculated the return on investment your business might expect from the project overall, and what forms of revenue streams will be using? So are you doing digital revenue sales, asset sales, commission, dynamic pricing, fixed prices? Are you selling via e-commerce? Are you planning to license your IPR? So again, it's having a very good handle in terms of depth and breadth on where the revenue streams are coming from, how they're being managed, and what they're worth to the business and to the grant funders and the investors that are looking to invest in you. Okay, and then the next important area to look at is the team. And in terms of consideration, particularly for investors, grant funders, VCs, who you have on your team is an extremely important part of whether you'll get investment or not. And these can be people who you employ yourself, but also it's what other team members have you got outside of the business, non-executive directors, partners that you deal with that can help fill the gaps that you've identified where you might have challenge areas. So who's looking after operations? Who's looking after the technical side? Who's managing your finance? Who's involved in products and service development? And what is the credibility behind all of these different players that you've got within the team? Have you got senior people within your business who've had experience of bringing major innovations successfully to market in the past? Is there sufficient capacity in the business to keep the project moving to its conclusion within the agreed timescale as a result of the human resource that you've got there? Who are the external partners that you're needing to work with to execute the project? And what changes will you need to make to business processes or to systems to accommodate the innovation project? And what prior experience is there of patenting or copywriting? Have you got an IP lawyer that you're working with? And what is their knowledge and qualification and credibility in the marketplace? Because this is particularly important, because without the right team and a robust team in place covering all of the different areas that you need to cover within the commercialization of the business, you are going to struggle to get grant funding investment or angel investment, venture capital investment, because this is the real security that the innovation plan you've got will actually be realized and is credible. So if you've got gaps within those particular areas, you need to find the right human resource to help you fill those gaps, to make sure that you have a really credible team when you're putting forward a proposal. Okay, and so we've looked at the innovation project canvas as an overview, and again, the business model environment, it's extremely important when you're looking at all of these different things that we've got here to put into context your innovation and your business model with what's going on in the business model environment. So you need to really be looking at and including in your proposition your understanding of key trend drivers, what the key market forces are, what the competitive forces are, what the industry forces are, and really looking at the risks and the opportunities presented by the macro environment, utilizing tools such as Steeple. So in terms of top tips, things that I would say are really important to consider when you're looking at putting together a framework and your information for submitting for a funding bid, or you're looking at investors, is to really read and understand the key requirements that the investor has put out. So what is the key criteria of what they're looking for? What are the timelines for submission of the applications or the pitch? How does the investor score what you're submitting? And how many people are involved in it? On some submissions, you could have a team of 5 different assessors that will be looking at your application, one of which might be from your sector and understand what you're doing, and another 4 that don't. And so you need to make sure you understand each of the, and prepare your pitch to cover different assessors looking at your proposal. You need to understand the values of the funder and whether what you're doing as a company and what you're doing as a proposition matches their values. So you need to do a lot of research in terms of background research on the funder, what projects that they've funded similar to your projects, and what the success rate has been. Why have those companies been successful? And then go back and strip back your project right to the beginning and completely refine it so that your project proposal really matches what that investor or funder is looking for. And again, as we've said before, don't assume anything in terms of your business, your innovation, the commercialization, the marketplace that's out there. You really need to have the depth and breadth of knowledge and prove what you're saying, because the devil's in the detail, and the whole credibility and strength of your proposal and your delivery plan is key, that it's based on evidence rather than assumptions. You need to remove the rose-tinted glasses. Again, be realistic in the proposal about the risks there and the opportunities. So where we're talking about the serviceable, obtainable market as opposed to the total available market, you need to be realistic with the information that's gone into the proposal. And the grant funders and the venture capitalists and angel investors will appreciate that you've got a handle properly on the business model if you really understand the right level of risk and opportunity there. You need to make sure that you understand and ask all the questions that have been asked. And again, be concise with your answers and eliminate jargon. So there's lots of times where we see applications that come in for grant funding, and it comes from a technological, scientific base, and there's lots of jargon words that are in there that are specific to the industry. And for those, as we say before, you might have 5 assessors that are looking at an application, one of which will understand the jargon, but you've got another 4 that won't. So you need to make sure that everything that you put in is very clear and can be understood by somebody who is not from your business industry and sector when they're looking at it. You also need to consider with an application about being right on the money. So the funding that you're asking for is not only right for the business that you've got and your project, but is also right for the funder. So if you're looking at a funding pot that's got 15 million in it and you're trying to apply for your project for 14 million, it's probably unlikely, unless it is something absolutely fantastic, that you'll get the funding award, because the funders are again trying to spread the money that they've got out among quite a few businesses to give them support. So you've got to be realistic in terms of your ask and make sure that it fits within the scope of the project. And likewise, if a funding call has a particular level where they say the project has got to be, say, £50,000, and you've put in a project which is £52,000, then you're going to get knocked back immediately before any consideration is given to the actual project itself and the information that you've put in. So you need to make sure that financially in the bid that you're putting in is absolutely right to funder requirements. Again, in terms of funders and investors, what's in it for them? You need to make clear what they get out of it and understand what they're looking for and showcase the required impacts or potential impacts that you've got there. Because it may be all great what your plan is, but what the investors or the grant funders might want to see is how much turnover are you going to achieve in net profitability? How quickly are you going to do this? How many, certainly from a grant funding point of view, how many people are you potentially going to employ within the organization within a time period? What impact is this project going to have on the wider supply chain and the wider industry in terms of supporting that? So you need to really understand what the funder sees as a tick in the box in terms of the what's in it for them, and then make sure that your proposal really showcases those potential impacts. And again, within the proposal, you need to regularly and clearly reinforce the USPs or the wow factor that you've got with your innovation. And like we said at the beginning, what's unique about it? What's really disruptive about that innovation? Why is it a wow factor? Because in terms of your value proposition, you've really aligned yourself with the target market that you're going for. And in terms of preparation of the funding bids, it's no good trying to do it a couple of days beforehand. You really, if it's something that's of real value to you and your business taking it forward, you really do need to set aside enough time and complete the document and submit early. Because if you set enough time to develop a proposal, so you might have, say, for example, with an Innovate UK grant, you might have a month or 6 weeks funding call. You really want to be getting it all nailed down within the first 3 weeks, so that then you can make use of external reviewers and resources such as the Knowledge Transfer Network or team here within Enterprise Europe Network to review your documentation and look at areas for change, and then have the time to be able to implement those changes in the funding application before it finally gets submitted, because it's no good trying to send across for review at 11 o'clock on the morning when the submission time period is 12 o'clock of the same day. So again, very important to spend the time if it's something that's really important for you in terms of getting investments into the business. So that covers all of the top tips there that I've got for utilizing the Innovation Project Canvas framework. And if you have any questions, then obviously happy to answer those.
Certainly, that was very comprehensive, Simon. I mean, would you like to tell the audience a bit about what's actually available through your services? Because how much do people have to pay to use Enterprise Europe Network and to gain access to your Innovation Project Canvas?
Yes, yeah, certainly. I mean, let me, I'll just forward through some of these things. So in terms of resources, obviously with the Innovation Project Canvas, it's making use of everything that's out there to support you. So you've got the Canvas models, like the Innovation Project Canvas, Business Model Canvas, Value Proposition Canvas. Do find them and make use of them. Speak with your funding providers, speak with the local growth hubs, contact the Knowledge Transfer Network for the sector that you're in, speak with specialist catapults that are out there. We've got the Department for International Trade, again, who are very helpful and have got a lot of resource in terms of looking at international markets and support for exporting. You've got local chambers of commerce, you've got industry bodies, you've got libraries, which more and more are helping businesses with understanding their markets. You've got the online resources and Enterprise Europe Network as well. Now, in terms of Enterprise Europe Network, it's an organization, which I'll just click through here, that provides tailored innovation and growth support. So what we do is we cover the east of England for Enterprise Europe Network, and there's an Enterprise Europe Network covering the whole of the UK. And we provide innovation and growth support that is specifically designed to support your business in what you're doing and in the way that you're looking to do it. We have the network across 65 countries. We've got 600 partners, and within that we've got 3,000 experts from all sorts of different sectors and knowledge fields that are here to help you. So in terms of a resource, it can be extremely useful to tap into. And within that, we've got 10,000 research and technology and business opportunities. We've got advisors who are partnering advisors who support connectivity. We've got a partnering database that's got thousands of companies on it. So if you're looking for connections in terms of knowledge transfer, so you're looking to connect with a university to help with developing your product, or you're looking to connect with an international partner, or you're looking for supply chain and distribution chain partnering contacts, we can help you with that. We can help with matchmaking at conferences and trade fairs. So we get involved in global business innovation programs to help businesses get to other countries and interact with other countries within their sector. And we do regular missions and brokerage events. And for the most part, all of the provisions that we provide are completely free of charge because they're supported by grant funding to help you as SMEs. Examples of the particular areas specifically that we get into. So we help businesses with innovation and growth coaching. So that's helping with putting your plans together and validating those and helping you go through the stages of development to commercialization. We then have programs of support like Innovate to Succeed, which help with commercializing the innovation. And we've also got global business innovation programs to help with internationalization and connection in terms of getting your commercialization out to the wider world. As I say, we have partnering support if you're looking for partners. We help you get pitch ready if you're looking to pitch, and connect you with organizations that are organizing pitch fests for businesses to connect them with investors. And then for bigger businesses, we help them with programs such as the Scale Up program to take them to the next level of commercial development. So we have a lot of things that we get involved with there, and a lot of events that we arrange and organize. So there's a massive amount of support that's available to SMEs, and it's well worth tapping into that support in terms of helping your business grow and looking at access to finance and refining your strategy going forward. And in terms of contacts, Helen Turton is our EN Client Engagement and Ecosystem Relationship Manager for Enterprise Europe. And so if you would like any information on the services that we provide, and you would be interested in engaging with the support that we have, then if you speak to Helen and her team, she would be more than happy to have a chat with you and arrange a virtual meeting to discuss where you're at with the business and how we can potentially be of help. And then likewise, if you have any questions that you want to ask regarding the Innovation Project Canvas or the delivery that we've done today, please feel free to contact me or speak to John, and we'll be happy to be of help.
Thank you, Simon. I think one of the key features of this program is that virtually all the services are free. The Innovation Project Canvas, I would thoroughly recommend to any business which is planning on developing a new and innovative product, especially once they've got past that initial stage and they need to dot all the I's and cross all the T's to get themselves investment ready. Whether that investment is in fact equity investment, angels, VC funds, or Innovate UK grants and loans, etc. There is more than one way to fund a project. And one of the questions earlier was about funding a project in its very early stage. How do you prove it? Well, watch out for proof of concept funding. They are available. They are still available in certain sectors, and you have to dig them out. But the Innovate UK website is a very good place to look. But another alternative is to actually either ask my team or in fact contact Enterprise Europe Network East, who would probably help you not quite fill out the application form, but certainly get you ready to fill out the application form, which is the most important thing about it. Remember, the project is always yours. It never belongs to someone else. And this is where intellectual property comes very, very important. And the University of Essex prides itself on being one of the top universities. We're in the top 3, possibly even the top 2 of the country now for supplying knowledge transfer exchanges, where we will work with you to develop a project and to help you with the research and the development of that project to get it ready for commercialization. And when you're ready for commercialization, we have the next phase. We have Angels at Essex, which is our private equity platform, which is funded to be able to provide businesses with the kind of seed funding that they need to get themselves launched into the commercial market. And that could be pre-revenue or post-revenue. The emphasis here is that highly innovative products and services that we look for. But when we're going forward, we always need new, innovative, market disruptive projects that are going to make a difference in the world. The world has changed dramatically. COVID has taught us that rather sharply, rather bluntly, but we do need new projects and new ideas. The UK needs to be at the forefront. We won't go into Brexit in this webinar, but we all know that things are going to change significantly, and the world is a much bigger marketplace, and we need to address that going forward. So I now have a further poll to ask you, and I would ask that you actually at least look at this poll and give us your views and what have you. And you will be automatically sent a customer satisfaction survey after this webinar. Whether you like it or not, you'll get one. And we do ask that you fill them in because they are important to us. Your voice is important to us. It's not just a case of listening to us all day long. So And just as an aside, we do have another webinar tomorrow at 2 o'clock, which is actually live pitching. And some businesses have come forward and will be pitching for real money going forward. So you may be interested in that webinar. Details are available on our website. So the poll is now up, and that's a very interesting result. We'll give it a few more seconds before we close that particular poll. I think, Simon, what they're telling us, what our audience is telling us, is that you're changing the world, which is what it's all about, being disruptive and making people think differently in the future. The word steeple chasing seems to spring to mind. And I think that's somewhere where I will leave the jokes and the puns for today. If you'd like to end the polling, please.
Yeah, so we'll leave it there. So as you can see, here we go. 100% of people who answered that question plan to alter their fundraising strategy as a result of this webinar. So thank you, Simon. Very impactful. Very
impactful indeed. So without further ado, from myself, from Josh, and from our presenter, Simon, I thank you very much for attending today. I look forward to meeting some more of you tomorrow at our 2 o'clock Pitch Fest, and be safe. And if you are commuting, be extra safe. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.